The 6.5 is on the road here in New York City. We just got out of the Samsung Galaxy Unpacked satellite event here in New York City, and it was awesome. And you can imagine the talk of the show was about AI. We saw some incredible new mobile devices that got brought out, 2 new foldables, some pretty compelling watches from a health standpoint, and the first Samsung Ring. I'm excited to use all of these, but it is my pleasure to talk B2B with Brad from Samsung. Brad, how you doing, buddy?
Well, how are you?
Good to see you. Pretty awesome event. It was fun. It was funny. I usually go to the big event. This year was in Paris. I went to the one last year in actually Korea. And it was pretty awesome. But I have to tell you, this one in New York City was fun as well.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you being there. And, it's an important event for us, as we do these launch cadences twice a year to make sure that we're consistently innovating around the year. And we think that's really important.
Yeah, it was so much fun. And I also got a little... I got a Fold myself, a Fold6, which I'm pretty psyched about. So, hey, let's dive in. Talked about, I said you run B2B, but what does that mean at Samsung?
Yeah, so I'm responsible for all the revenue and operations for the mobile B2B business. As many folks know or may not know, we have a pretty large portfolio from PCs, phones, tablets, and the wearable devices such as watches and buds, which are actually becoming more prominent in B2B. So basically responsible for driving the revenue across all businesses in the United States, from SMB all the way up to large enterprise.
Yeah, it is incredible how mobile devices and technologies have really transformed the workplace. I remember when I first started work, we had a shared PC between 2 of us, and we would swivel this thing around, and we had a dot matrix printer, and then the mobility wave hit, and that was all about mobile PCs, which weren't exactly that mobile. And then that moved to thin and light, and then that moved to large smartphones, and now foldables. I know it's changed the way that I've worked, and the data says that it's changed the way that everybody else is working too. It's pretty exciting. So I gave a little bit of a preview generically on what was announced. Can you talk overall, what did you announce today?
Yeah, so we announced our 6th generation foldable devices. So first and foremost, our flagship phones, which are here we have the new Flip 6 phone. And this is a phenomenal phone, pretty significant upgrades on battery life and camera, et cetera. And really, really cool device. And then we launched what to me is more prominent in the B2B space would be the Fold. And so the Fold is a great device. We continue to make improvements. We talked a lot about display, battery life, thin and light, form factor, and there's just so many things you can do with a device like this. On top of that, we talked a lot about, of course, as you eloquently stated, Galaxy AI, and our partnership with Google and Gemini was kind of weaved in throughout all of that, really addressing the nascent but powerful capabilities of AI and how it can enrich a person or a business's ability to be productive. And then we launched the new, here's the Watch 7. We have a new Ultra version of the watch, which is phenomenal. And of course, we launched the Galaxy Ring, which we teased. If you remember when you and I were in the last Unpacked in San Jose, we teased it out. And it drew a lot of questions and speculation, but we're finally now launched. And talked a lot about how health and wellness, and we can talk a little bit about how that impacts B2B, but health and wellness moving front and center with what Samsung does with Samsung Health, with how your phone, the Ring, and the watch interact, and free of charge. It's not a service fee.
Yeah, it's a big deal, especially when, some of these other Ring providers, subscription can be over $100 per year, which might not sound like a lot, but it is. And I am, I've recently gotten into health. I mean, I'm kind of embarrassed to say recently, but in the last year, I've really been hardcore. on getting fit and the benefits that can bring to my own productivity and my energy and my durability is just great. Not to mention hopefully keeping me out of the hospital, which is very important to businesses. So, flagship announcement. Actually, you had a lot of flagship announcements here, but you brought us your sixth edition, your sixth version of Foldables, which, by the way, is funny when some competitors haven't even brought up the first, but maybe we'll leave that for a different conversation. Pretty interesting and easy to understand the benefits to a consumer audience. But let's talk about B2B. When you're looking at CIOs and IT departments and then the end users, what are some of these benefits that they're seeing from this technology, the foldables in specific?
Well, I think the biggest benefit, so one thing we always talk about as the baseline for everything with regards to what we do in B2B, and you and I talked about it in our last interview, is that the Knox security platform is the bedrock of everything.
Right.
Not only do you have the chip up security at a platform level that protects your most, precious data, biometrics, passwords, etc. We also talked about the whole suite of Knox capabilities as a mobile device manager and lots of capabilities that we can provide to enterprises. So that's sort of the bedrock. But the foldable itself then starts to bring in, so security is something they care about, but then productivity.
Right.
And so what we are seeing is that there are a lot of folks who work day to day in large companies such as myself who are on the road all the time.
Yeah.
And, you're in cars, you're in Ubers, and sometimes you just don't have the time to take out your PC and tether it to your phone or whatever. So the form factor is pretty incredible because one is if you're on the go and you're, one of the improvements they actually made is when the device is closed, the Fold 6 versus the Fold 5 is actually a little bit of a wider display.
Right.
Okay. So when you're on the go and you're texting, et cetera, you have a nice, bright, good display. It fits in your pocket. It's really slim.
Yeah.
But when you open it up is where the magic happens. And so what we see is a lot of customers who, and you can target certain audiences, but if you're a business user and you're doing 80% of your disposition of emails, or you're looking at PowerPoints or Word documents, this device makes a massive difference in your ability to be productive at work. So we're seeing a lot of interest really on that productivity side.
Yeah, it's interesting. You even add that, add pen capability to that, and the ability to, amplify that capability really comes true. I found with my Fold, the ability to actually edit a PowerPoint presentation in a car without having to pull my laptop out has been a huge benefit. I mean, we have, 3 minutes before the presentation starts, it's online, and you need to make those final changes. That has really come in handy. And this might sound wild. Who would ever thought of being able to do a spreadsheet on it as well?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it makes a huge difference. And even on the S24 Ultra, which I carry one of those as well, it's a phenomenal device, but you're at the smaller screen size. And here, I think the beauty of what we've done here for businesses is we've worked to do application optimization for the foldable devices with Microsoft for Office and then other applications, which we could probably talk about later, but that just, again, make it a different experience for the business on the go.
Yeah. And the other thing is multi-windowing.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I can do multiple windows on all my Galaxy phones, but I find even more utility when I have a larger screen where I can literally have 3 or 4 windows looking at things at the same time. So let's say I got feedback on that PowerPoint presentation in maybe a Teams chat or something on the left-hand side, and I can be editing it on the right. I've really found that helpful. And another one even is, when I'm trying to do a research report, doing some searches on the internet, on the left-hand rail in a web browser, on the right-hand side in a Word document. So it really is inspiring. And, AI adds this additional layer of superpowers to it. When we saw Samsung invest a lot of time, we're at the second generation of Galaxy AI. what are some of the B2B applications that AI to superpower the experience?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I think, first of all, when we launched Galaxy AI, we launched it with the S24 earlier this year. And then we did a backwards compatibility software drop to, say, the Fold 5. So even the old Fold 5, last generation version, does have Galaxy AI. But the innovation they did with the Fold 6 was, how do you take the Galaxy AI capabilities and bring it to the next level on a multi-screen type device that's foldable?
Yes.
So what you saw in Unpacked today is, one of the great, there's a lot of things that you can do. Obviously, there's note assist, there's live translation, etc. But like even with note assist, if you do that, or if you record a meeting and you want to have it recorded and a transcript spit out on an S24, you will only see the screen of the recording. Once you move to the foldable, with the ability to what we call flex mode, is now you have it open and you could be taking notes. You saw it today, the example, taking notes while recording a meeting, and then have a time lapse of where your notes were in the meeting, and then people speaking in the meeting, and then the AI will do a translation of the meeting and then even a summary of the meeting. I mean, just think about, you spent a long time in corporate world. I spent 21 years at Intel and a year now here at Samsung. How many meetings and many minutes and meeting notes and pass downs you have to do. Just that capability alone is been wonderful. And then, of course, we talk a lot about the business travelers and being on the road and in the world, and the flexible device where, you could be doing live translate and the other person sees the screen by having that flex mode capability on live translation, etc. And whether you're running a small, medium business and you're having lots of different diverse, like you think about here, we're in New York City, one of the most diverse cities on the planet. How many languages are spoken in New York City?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, you just walk down the street and you hear a lot of them.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, there's a lot of how do you benefit and build upon the Galaxy AI story for business productivity? And of course, our team, as you know, and I shared with you earlier, we're building out a lot of these use cases, like what does that look like? And then how do you use it with flex mode and get that differentiation?
Yeah, I have to tell you, one of the interesting things I find too is that a lot of these AI capabilities are done on the device. You can go to the cloud and get some of these done, but it has to be probably warm the CISO's heart and IT's heart that if you want to do a lot of these functions that you talked about, you can do that right on the device. You do not have to connect or share this information in the cloud.
Yeah, that's actually a really important point. I'm glad you brought this up, Pat. One of the lessons learned we had when we launched the S24 Ultra with Galaxy AI was immediately enterprise customers were asking us, hold on, I don't allow anybody to call to a public call to a chat GPT. I don't allow access to the internet. Depends if it's a regulated industry like banking or healthcare. So the first thing we had to start to do is address those issues. And again, in our conversation a few months ago, I said it's very nascent. And what we started to do is build upon that, right? So we very clearly can articulate to the customers, here are all the capabilities that are on device, right? Then you want to add in Knox controls for capabilities on the device. And then we basically have the ability, then you can go in, and they showed this at Unpacked today, that you can actually go in there and you can actually toggle. The user themselves can toggle off to get rid of cloud access and only have on-device based AI. We can have enterprise customers set policy for that, like the Knox services portal, et cetera, from an MDM, et cetera. And that's the kind of stuff that I think is going to become very, very important, giving that level of control, peace of mind, and security to the large enterprise users, because there is a lot of concerns around any data or IP leakage out to public clouds.
Yeah, kudos to Samsung for recognizing this need. And literally, it was the first thing I did on my S24 was go in and see if you could toggle between that. And sure enough, it's right there. It's one switch. And obviously, in enterprise managed environments, they would do it through policy.
Correct.
But it was great to see that even an end user, maybe a small business who doesn't operate on policy, can toggle that switch as well. It's good stuff.
And there's also one more thing too. You can not only toggle the what's on device versus what goes to the cloud. You can also set privacy settings as into what data is being collected through Galaxy AI, and then what you will allow to again, not be released. So again, privacy and security, security on the more enterprise side, but I think people are getting really, while AI is a beautiful technology, there is how do I make sure I fundamentally protect my privacy, which is...
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, you're under second generation of smartphone AI, and your biggest competitor, there's not even a fixed date on when that's coming out or what countries are going to be supported. It's going to be interesting. The analyst in me finds this interesting to watch, but anyways, benefits to Samsung customers. So I want to shift gears here. It's been a great conversation, Brad. I really appreciate the time here. I want to talk about wearables. We talked a little bit about this intersection between wearables and B2B, but can you do the double click on it? What does it mean? What's the value? Why should enterprise IT or organizations invest in Samsung wearables?
So there's several things that we see occurring in the industry. Now, we don't do a ton of volume on wearables today. However, the world is changing pretty rapidly. If you think about the car industry, where the car insurance, like a State Farm, now they want to put the little thing in your car that's actually measuring how you're driving, et cetera.
Right.
We all know the healthcare industry is going to go down a similar path, which is, why should you tax healthy people the burden, right, for not, for the folks who aren't healthy, right? So I think there's a lot of interest from insurance companies and large enterprises. Insurance companies on, hey, how do I keep premiums down? Are there ways that I could potentially hand out? We've talked to companies about deploying wearables as a way to monitor your health. Again, it's an opt-in, privacy, et cetera, and HIPAA and all that. But to say, hey, I'm going to show you that I'm working out. So if you look at from an insurance policy and insurance provider standpoint, there's that. Then in enterprises, more and more companies are becoming more cognizant of mental and physical well-being and health of their employees.
Right.
And they work in turn with insurance companies. So we're starting to see these use cases build. And then there's other use cases in other verticals where, we have a pilot with a large manufacturer who is using it for manufacturing technicians on the floor and using some pretty cool software that says, hey, make sure you take a break. You've been on the floor for a while. It can monitor your hydration and, these kinds of things. And then in retail stores, instead of somebody carrying down a phone or a tablet, which we're very grateful for that, now you're seeing some retailers turn to wearables. For instance, to call somebody to the front of the store to assist a customer or to go somewhere else. So the use cases are just beginning. And of course, with the Wear OS that was talked about today, we have with Knox Manage the ability to actually manage wearables in Knox.
Oh, that's amazing.
Which is a big deal.
Yeah, it's funny, as analysts, we kind of pretend that we know everything, but I didn't know that part, and that's super important, particularly when it's going to be part of your enterprise data estate and you're dealing with healthcare data. Brad, I really appreciate your time. I'm going to give you the last words. Anything we didn't cover, or any points you want to reinforce, maybe about the overall Samsung B2B value proposition to enterprises?
Yeah, I think the thing I think is really important is no one in this industry has a more robust portfolio. When you look at what we can provide the market, Samsung is the only company that has the AI PC with our Galaxy Book 4. We have our ruggedized and our flagship series tablets.
Right.
We have the wearables, the watches, the buds, and we have a multitude of devices from A series to flagship, and then all wrapped around that security underpinning of Knox. And every customer is different. So it goes down to, what is the use case? What is the outcome you're looking for? But we have a solution regardless of what that worker use type looks like, what that use case looks like. We have something that will work, and we have a great level of innovation. And I just think our story's not out there enough. You and I keep talking about this. Samsung should have a much larger presence in the business world, in the US market. Our innovation is, I believe, unmatched, our capabilities, and we pivot very quickly to customer data to make sure that, like, again, with AI, make sure we're putting the right governance and controls in place to give that peace of mind on how customers are going to manage their devices in an environment.
That's a great way to end the conversation, Brad. And yes, when it comes to Samsung B2B, I like to look at the value proposition you're delivering versus people's understanding and awareness of it. And there's a mismatch right now. You're delivering a lot more than people out there. And I hope getting the message out here on the 6.5 to that enterprise audience can, spread the wealth and knowledge of what you're doing here. So thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it, Pat.
Absolutely.
Take care.
So this is Pat Moorhead and Brad Haczynski signing off here from New York City at the Samsung Galaxy Unpacked event. It was a great event. It's a great conversation. Tune into all of the content that we have discussed on Samsung and Unpacked, and take care.